and one of my favorite subjects, is art that you can wear. And you know, there's always room for one more piece of jewelry, right? Ladies? Men?
Yes.
Of course. And there's a phrase that I've revised, but we used to say happy wife, happy life. But I call that happy spouse, happy house. So, you know, treat your lady, treat your guy to some beautiful jewelry. But today we've got some wonderful, dazzling people to share with us. Starting on that end, we have Michelle Bell from Big Bear, California. And next to her is Suzanne Brown from right here. And then we have Isabel Posilico, who, well, you're a dual citizen now, right? California and Arizona. And Paul Farmer, who just recently moved up to Vail, Colorado, but we get him for the winters here. So, wonderful collection. And I'm not gonna lie, I have pieces from all of them, and I love all of them. So, I think what I'd like to do is start by having each of the panel members, you know, tell us, well, we already know who you are, where you're from, but how long you've been a jeweler, and what is it that attracted you to the art form of jewelry? Maybe just share that, and then we'll get more into the hows and whys and the tools of the trade, because I thought it'd be fun to share that. So, Michelle Bell.
So, very easy for me. I learned to make jewelry so that I could make myself rings. That's it. That was the whole story. Here I am.
I'm sure it's much more than that. I come from a quilting background, so I'm originally from Kansas. Originally from Kansas, and fiber art was my thing. And so I made fiber art walls, and I decided I was sitting too much. So, you know, the gym show comes along. What do? You gotta go, and you gotta buy, and then you come home and you go, uh-oh, gotta sell it. So, I came from beads. I went through all the steps up to sheet metal, and there I am. I love gemstones. They appeal to me because of color and shapes, and I think they kind of transcend my material life with now my gemstone. So that's where I'm from.
So my background is my background is architectural interior design, and in the early 90s, when the economy was not very good in Southern California, I took a jewelry class at Long Beach City College and learned how to solder, mostly in silver, and I did that for about a year, and then I went into gold. I figured out that I could design and hold something in my hand in a couple of days versus like 2 years on a project. And then I love color, so my pieces, you'll see, are all arranged by color. That attracts me. I love stones. I've always collected stones, even when I was a little kid. So all of that comes together in jewelry. And I like creating things that make people happy.
Okay, so let's see, how did I get my start? Well, it was a family thing. So there was someone in my family who was a master goldsmith. And so I learned from them. I studied with other master goldsmiths. I also really love colored stones because it's just so much fun. And studied gemology, started collecting stones, and I build everything all by hand. So it starts from raw gold, all the way.
Perfect.
This segue. Okay, this is 24 karat gold, and I mix that with a little bit of silver, a little bit of copper, and I make sheet and wire like this. And so I mill all this out. I make it all by hand, and then I create my pieces. So I just, that's how I started.
I think we should go on from there.
You want me to go on from there? Okay.
So lead us into your particular style.
Okay, so I do, not the gold, That's $1,300 in gold. And I don't want it to go all over the floor.
Yeah, it's true.
So
It's
yeah.
Ziplocs.
Yeah.
Can't be trusted.
Yeah. So it's not about being
So why do
trusted.
you
it's
mix
just-
this together?
Okay, so gold, 24 karat gold is very soft. So you have to mix it with silver and copper. There are other ingredients that other people use. They'll use zinc. If you need to make it white, gold is not white, it's gold. So this right here, it's just pure gold. So it's not yellow, it's gold. And to make it white, they add zinc and nickel. I don't do that because my particular form of goldsmithing, I do an ancient technique called granulation. And all the little gold spheres that I make them all by hand, and then I fix them onto a piece that I made, and they're fused on at about 1800 degrees, so they all become one piece. But it's a technique that's 5,000 years old. So the Egyptians were doing it, the Etruscans. Every once in a while you see something that they pull out of an archaeological site and you're like, wow, that looks like something I made, but I use these really cool stones, a lot different. Back then they had just smooth stones, a few rose cut, not very many faceted stones. So I have all these cool stones to play with.
And so part of our
topic that I think would be really cool to go to next is one of the reasons we selected this panel, because we have lots of other jewelers in this show, but these are people who deal immensely with the gemstones and the faceting, and how do you select and choose stones that go together? That's, I think, the color story or contrast story. And another thing that's interesting, I know the three of you, the three to my right, all have right now an example of watermelon tourmaline in your exhibit. So maybe just talk a little bit about the gems and why you select them. And I'm going to continue to show them what granulation is all about.
Okay. Okay, since we're talking about watermelon tourmaline, tourmaline is one of the stones that it's an October birthstone. We have three. We have opal, tourmaline, and rose zircon. But watermelon tourmaline itself comes in many different colors. It's a great stone. It's pretty hard, not as hard as sapphire, but it's still a pretty hard stone. And it's really cool because it can come in not just one color, you can have even 4 or 5 different colors all in the same stone. The watermelon tourmaline is green on the outside and pink or pinkish red on the inside. And you both have some beautiful pieces that you've made, and they're just stunning. And it's just usually a slice. Sometimes they're faceted, but the slices are just so cool and really nice. And it's just a slice of just the end, the end of the piece, and it's a lot of fun.
So the watermelon tourmaline that I have is set very different than the watermelon tourmaline that Suzanne has, which is really fun to see how we each have a vision for the same stone and how different it is. I go to the gem shows, I'm picking stones because I like the quality and the cut, and I'm interested in something that's different. I don't want something that kind of you see every day, so I like agates and crystals, and yet I like the little faceted gemstones too, but usually just as little accent stones. I'm definitely interested in color, so I look at all the different colors for a piece that are, coordinated within for a brooch or something with different stones. I do a lot of mismatched earrings you'll see in my cases. I call them my dance partners. So it's matched by length and color, because I pick stones because of the quality and the cut, but I never find a pair because I like the hand-cut stones. So that's something that is one of my signature designs with the different mismatched stones. I like shape, so I have different beads that I've gotten different shapes from, and then I make the gold beads that go with those shapes. I don't mill the wire like Paul does. I've purchased wire and sheets to the specification that I need, and then I bend and solder it and into the pieces that I do. I don't do any casting because I don't know how to do that. I just learned how to solder, and that's what I enjoy doing. And here's Suzanne.
Okay, so my watermelon tourmaline, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My watermelon tourmaline is the same color range as Isabel's. The shape is fairly much the same, but I do really simple designs. So mine has 3 little green tourmalines at the bottom, which are brilliant. And then the earrings, which are also kind of a triangular shape, very simply set with just gold. Now, I have done some milling of my gold also. So some of the pieces that you see in my booth, I have made 22 karat gold and melted it, put the silver and some copper in with it to dump it down, so to speak. And but I enjoy making my own gold. I don't do it all the time, but so I do fairly simple designs. I just use the stones for the beauty. I always go for some unusual cut, like the cut that I'm wearing right now, which is an actual geode, azurite geode, and then finding the boulder opal that goes at the bottom, which matched so perfectly, I couldn't believe it. So I'm really, and this is all silver. So I'm now doing silver and gold just because I like the combination of colors, and it's a little more contemporary. So that's what I do.
Susanna and I were talking this morning about how she starts with the stone itself to create the piece, and I actually work opposite of that. I'm a metal girl, and when I started learning to make jewelry, I started learning to, cut the stones and to do the metal, and at some point I decided I had to go one direction or the other. I wanted to go one direction or the other, and what did it for me was that, stones, if you break them, you can't melt them down and start all over again. But metal, you can do that. So what's the worst that can happen? I really don't like this. I'm going to melt it down and start all over again, which actually those are probably the best pieces that are the happy accidents. I think we probably all have had those. But so I actually start with sterling silver sheet. And could you hold this so I can? Yep, that would be awesome. So I actually start with a sheet of sterling silver. It looks just like this. This is what I ordered. And I love texture. And so for me, I have a hard time making jewelry out of this because I discovered this process called reticulation that actually causes, after 17 steps of heating and cooling, will cause the silver to melt inside and create an underground river, which is random and a little bit controllable, but only about as controllable as putting a stick in a stream. You can aim, but it doesn't always happen that way. So I'll end up with a sheet like this, which one side is completely different from the other, and I guess you could pass this around. And so I actually, 17 steps of heating, cooling, repetitive steps, heating, cooling, dunking it in acid, running it through a rolling mill, little rain dance. yeah, but actually what creates this texture, I never touch it with a hammer. When the metal is ready to roll, I actually use the flame of the torch. The flame is what pushes those wrinkles into it. And so it comes in a random pattern that is always exciting for me to see what I get. And that is what inspires me to make the piece and pick the stone. So I guess it's almost opposite, but I'll cut out little pieces. You'll see the patterns, and I'll make the piece around the pattern, and then I'll find a certain stone that belongs on that piece of metal. Which, by the way, can you hold? I just got. So I just got a shipment from my favorite gem guy, and so this beautiful. Can you just hold that on my bracelet, because I'm imagining where this 15 karat aquamarine is going to go, and I don't know, I think it might look nice there. So haven't decided yet, but sometimes I will leave pieces just without a stone, because I will also work with other people's stones, and they'll say, oh, I'd like to bring you my grandmother's stone and put it on something. Anyway, that's my story. But I do the gold. So the gold, I do mill my own gold as well. I start with the 24 karat, so you know, don't put some extra 24 karat, and I alloy it down to 14 karat. And so I melt it in a little crucible, melt it, throw it into a long bar, make a bar, and then start rolling it through a rolling mill. And if my husband's around, we each have one good arm, so we can take turns and I'll have him roll. So I roll it down into wire, and then I actually take the wire and I hold it in one hand, and my torch in the other hand, and I use it right around the edge. It just looks like I'm melting it around. This was a method that was icing, yeah. And this was a method that was created by Charles Duncan, who used to do this show for years and years and years. It was his proprietary method. He was my mentor. I studied with him. He's no longer here, but he left me with him.
Isn't that fascinating? Like, every week we learn something. So, what do you think she should use this beautiful stone for?
Anything.
Anything, yeah. It would look beautiful on that. It matches your eyes. So, how hard is it sometimes to let go of your creations? Like, not that hard? All right, let's talk about this. So creativity.
Yes, but it's the smile of somebody that buys it. That is the joy of it. It's a joy. It's somebody going, oh, you did this. Let's think.
Absolutely. And as an artist, I have this funny little thing going on in my head, but one of the things that goes through my mind is that as I'm making a piece, I know that I'm making this piece for someone. I just don't know who that someone is until they come along and go, oh, this one's mine, and they're floating on air, or they put something on it, and I feel pretty, and yeah. So I will only be the keeper of something until someone comes along and claims it as I'm the person whom I really made it for.
There's a few pieces over the years I've kept because I know the stones are pieces I won't necessarily see again, and I have to make sure I don't wear them because that's usually something somebody will want. But I like working with stones, and I love seeing when somebody gets the piece, or like with Wendy, I used your stones for a bracelet last year, and we talked for 2 years before we designed it. So all of the stones, yeah.
So that's wonderful. You can, each of you, I presume, can work with people's individual personal stones.
So I have a necklace in my case that she was very excited about. She thought, oh, that would be great with her stones. And she brought in, was it rings and earrings?
All the stones were memories for me, and I knew I wasn't going to be wearing the articles, and I'm not talking about being flashy, but it meant that it was stones from my parents, it was stones from travels, it was stones from an engagement ring from a first marriage, and I still really love the guy, and he's coming to visit me, but I thought I could do something really nice with it when I saw with Isabel, so that's something that she's really an artist to do, as are the rest of these for various reasons, because I go to all of them. But there you go. They're all memories, and there's just the design that Isabel came up with, which was wonderful.
And that design is
It's my Lyrical Link series.
Lyrical Link.
Yeah. So, but it was also really an honor to work with the stones because they mean something.
Yes.
So, and so I do.
You want to let us pass it all around?
Sure.
Okay. So this is a bracelet.
So a lot of the work that I think several of us do is repurposing people's jewelry because they want to get something, but they realize they have a lot of jewelry, which we all do, but they want to get something of ours and they want to repurpose what they have. And so they get excited about doing that.
So, although I pick a lot of really nice, natural colored stones, I do work with a lot, probably half of the things that I do at Celebration are with people's own stones. They bring them in, they had, their husband gave them this really nice gift, but didn't involve their wife in picking it. Okay, I hear some laughs out there, some chuckles. Please, guys, involve your wife in something you're picking for them, because then they're going to get something they really love. And so a lot of times they'll have these really nice stones, some incredible emeralds, and so I'll make a brand new piece for them that they love. And so it works out really well. So I do a lot of that, a lot of family heirlooms where they've gotten different stones from their relatives, and they want to use them. So it's a great, it's a great thing. It works out really well. And so a lot of custom pieces, and then natural stones, things like that.
How often do you sketch your idea versus just letting the metal and the stones take you in that direction? Any sketching in your world?
Yeah, although for me, a lot of times I really do start playing with the metal, twisting, bending, turning, and because I work with sheet metal, if I want 3 dimensions, I have to just start twisting and turning and folding. But more often, when people bring me their stones, I actually do sketch it out for them. Like, somebody brought me a piece of wood yesterday, Stephanie and Steve, and so there is a wood. They decided that I'm going to make a collar that the metal part attaches to the wood. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I sketched it out, and it's really going to be amazing when I finish it. But just sketching it out and having the ideas down on paper is, people need to see that if they're going to have their own stones. I'm not the best sketching person, artist. I always tell people this is why there's no art on my walls. I'm not a graphic artist or a wall artist, so you're going to have to live with my very rudimentary sketches, but they seem to work.
I do about a third of the sketching, and the rest is just play with the metal and play with the stones and see what happens.
Do a few sketches kind of to get an idea on something, and then I realize that sometimes I sketch something that I really actually can't make. So, but it challenges me. But it also is to do a visual for the clients to see. And usually I have pieces that are already made that I could show them and say, this is what I have in mind. This is what I would like to do with your stone. And because I'm a very visual person, and that's kind of how I work. But I don't sketch as much as I used to.
Oh, let me see. I do sketch occasionally, but most of the time people come in and I want to have an idea of what they like. So they'll look through my cases, and then I have, because my things are all one of a kind, so I have them go through my photo albums, and you can just see them, all of a sudden they hit on something and say, wow, I really love this right here. Can you do something similar to this? And, they trust me, and just, it comes out beautiful. So they're happy.
Sharing the microphone. Okay, I have a couple more things I'm going to have you think ahead about signature pieces that you are truly known for. But I also, you and I talked earlier about how many of you know what the 4 C's are of gemstones? Clarity, cut, color, carats, right? And cash. And So Shelly has her own 4-letter thing, and I love it. So would you share your 4 Ps?
Okay, my 4 Ps. First of all, is prettiness. And by prettiness, I don't only mean the prettiness of the stone itself, but how it makes you feel. Like when Susan came up and put on this piece, she said, I feel pretty. That's the prettiness I'm talking about.
I wasn't even prompted, I just said it.
No, she just said it. So that was, I said, that's the first P. So the second P is price. And by price, I don't necessarily mean price, I mean value for what you're purchasing. Whether your heart desires a beautiful Pareva tourmaline set in 18-karat gold, and, or whether you just want a fun ring to wear with every outfit, or both. Most people want both. I mean value for what it is that you're purchasing. The third one is practicality. If you're a rock climber or you're going to garden in your rings or something strange like that, don't do it. If you're really active, then maybe a tanzanite is not the best stone choice for you. Diamonds are always good because you can't hurt them. And then the fourth P is personality, and it's the personality not only of the stone, but of the person who's going to be wearing the stone. I'm going to show you an example of some similar stones. So this piece has one personality: sweet, beautiful, ethereal. And then I'm going to show you a piece that belongs to one of my other customers who has a completely different personality. This lady has a completely different personality. This lady is bold, travels the world, and loves to do nothing more than wear wild, bold pieces that attract people to her and her amazing jewelry. But I'm pretty sure Susan would probably not wear that.
Yes, back in my fashion consulting days, we would have called this for a dramatic fashion personality.
Yeah.
This is more of a classic natural.
So I think that's where the consulting with your jeweler, especially if you want something custom made, really comes into play. And I like that all of you could work within any budget. You know, if somebody has a budget, you can make something that satisfies their desires in a range that works for them. So I kind of told you a minute ago to think about, well, let's share some of the other tools of the trade. I asked them to bring some of the things that they use, so that's why they all have, okay,
Here we are.
go ahead girls, put them on.
So cute. So we can
So when you walk around and see these fine artists at work, you'll see them looking down and you look out like this with their magnifying glasses on, but it's detail oriented, right? You really need that.
Yes, it's, you know, if you can't see it, you can't do it. You can't cut metal correctly, you can't solder it correctly. So, yes. So I have the glasses and the glasses. Doubled up.
Yeah, I would need to use them to set stones, make sure everything's level, and when I'm cutting metal as well and bending. Yeah, it's all detail work, and as I've gotten older, progressives and these work very well.
So, sorry, another tool, and I know Paul, you brought
saw.
yours up too.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yes, the jeweler's saw. Very handy.
Tell us about that.
Well, we all pretty much have the same exact saw. And I don't know what saw blade you use. I use a 4/0.
Oh, like that.
That's the one I use the
I've got
most.
about 10 different saw blades.
Yes, I've decided one works for pretty much everything I do. I was getting them confused, but very fine sawtooth. And then I saw everything out and then file things. And no, you just hold it straight up and down. And you have to get your chair at a certain level with the little area that you, device, not device, what's it called?
Oh, the bench block.
The bench block. So you put your metal there and you saw it up and down so you can not break as many blades.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
For safety reasons, I'm not passing the saw around. So why would you have so many different?
Oh, okay, so it depends on the thickness of the metal, what type of blade you use. So sometimes you have to have something super thin, and it has really fine blade, really fine teeth. You can't even see them. You can only feel them, or if you're using the magnifiers, you can look at it and say, oh yeah, there they are. But they're really, really super fine, but it's for something you're cutting that's really thin. If you use something with big teeth on it, it'll just grab the whole thing and it won't come through. But the other thing is that you don't realize is what we do, we recycle all our metals. So if you're using silver or gold, we have trays underneath our bench, and we pull them out, and then sitting right here, and all of our filings drop right into there. We save them, and then we send them in, and they get recycled, and we're able to reuse, the gold we get back. And so it's probably the most recycled thing in the world is really gold, because the value.
Another critical tool would be your torch.
Oh yeah, torch. We didn't bring the torch in for safety reasons.
I wouldn't let them bring torches.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, so the torch, when you're soldering things together, say you're soldering two pieces of gold together or some silver together, you use another piece of gold that's actually a lower carat weight, so it melts at a lower temperature, and that's how you're getting the pieces all together. So if you look at a gold ring, you're just seeing the gold, and it really is all gold, but we're melting pieces of gold in there together to hold everything together. So.
And was I correct that your granulation little beads is your 24 karat? Or is that
it's actually 22 karat.
22 karat.
So I make wire, and I snip it into little tiny pieces that are all like a similar size, and then I heat them on a charcoal block, and they turn into a sphere. It's a natural shape of things. If you actually looked at a water droplet, if it's small enough, say you have it on a leaf, it'll just be a sphere. Okay, and so that's what the gold does. When you melt it, it'll actually ball up into a little gold. If it's not real big. If it's big, it'll get a flat spot on the bottom, but it'll still ball up into a little granule. And those actually I fuse on. So I paint the granules into different patterns, and then I fuse them on at about 1800 degrees. So it's almost melting temperature. So I can't use solder at that point because the solder would actually melt. It's lower than what I'm doing with the fusion. So it's a pretty cool technique. It's hard to believe they did this with charcoal blocks, charcoal fires 5,000 years ago.
Well, that was going to be my question, is how do you not melt your beautiful beads that you made, but you answered it because you fuse it more like baking it.
Well, kind of. You're going to almost like melting temperature, and it just takes a millisecond, and if you go a little too far, you can melt your piece. So it's really, you kind of have to go in and you have to heat things slowly, bring it up, you get it to that point, and you can actually see little grains transferring back and forth. So it'll look like a mirror. We go beyond red, where you go to almost molten stage on the top of surface, and you can see the grains going back and forth real fast. But then you have to back off because otherwise you'll melt the piece.
Awesome, I love it. And you spend a lot of time out here, Isabel, in the workshop, don't you?
No, I got my studio at home now.
Oh, but before that, these are some of the hardest working people. They show up early, they stay late. We have a workshop out here for Shell Bell, and Paul's got his in the corner, but a lot of time is spent creating versus just staying in your space. But what do you use your workshop at home for?
So I have my soldering setup at home, and that's where I put all pieces together. So here at the show, what I do here is I cut out pieces and get them ready for when I go to my studio at night. And then I do like a bezel around a stone. I do this 22 karat gold. I fuse that seam together. Then I solder it to a base, which is usually 18 karat. And then I do all of the detailing, the ribbon piece like around this ring. That's an 18 karat. So that's soldered in several stages. So there's all these different stages that I do. And I can do some of the just kind of prep work here. And then I do the soldering at home. And then to get it to a point after it's tumbled and polished, then I come here and set stones. So that's kind of what I do behind my bench here. And like last night I worked till 3 in the morning because I needed to get things done, and I can't do that here. I need to have certain things completed, plus there was an order I had to finish. So,
hardworking people. Okay, so coming up, starting today, I think, down in Tucson is the gem show. So
the candy store.
The candy store or jeweler. So tell us, what I'd like to know, and maybe these folks would too, is do you have favorite places you go to at the gem show? Do you know what you're going to get when you head down there, or do you wait to see what inspires you? And also, do each of you have a particular gemstone that's your favorite, or something that's really rare that we may not have heard of before that you could maybe enlighten us to?
This is kind of not a fair question. So my favorite gem show in Tucson for the last 3 years has been the Pueblo Gem and Mineral Show, booth CP53. I do have an exhibit down there. My husband is down there now, so that's why my Aunt Laura is here in the booth helping me. But as far as buying gem shows buying gems at the gem show, I do very little buying there because I, unlike Paul and I don't know Isabel, I'm not GIA certified. And in Tucson there are so many options and so many gems, and I am not GIA certified, and I only buy from certain people throughout the year. So I have it, I want my fix, I have my gem guys send my stuff. It's fun to look at. I love to, I'll take somebody with me like Paul and say, okay, I'm looking for, this year it's opal, I'm having somebody look for some opal for me. And tourmaline is my favorite, so all different colors, watermelon, green, pink, every color in between.
So I normally don't look for gemstones. I only look for real tiny ones that I use as accents. So everything else I do is kind of mineral based. They're considered, I mean, like the tourmaline obviously is considered a gemstone. And I did a great aquamarine this year that is an actual brilliant. But for the most part, I do flat minerals. And so what I look for is something I've never seen before. I had a great piece that I sold today that I called my pink path, and when you come to my booth, you can see it on the wall. And it had a tourmaline in it, and it had a spinel in it, but it was marble that was infused with spinel. Never seen it before. So, I mean, I had to have it.
What is spinel?
Spinel is a gemstone. Yeah. It's a particular gemstone, very pink, or it can be blue. The one that I bought was pink. I've never seen it. That doesn't mean it isn't. So we'll see what turns up. And I only go to specific dealers that I've gone to before that I know what I'm buying is what they're telling me it is. So there you are.
Can you tell me what druzy is?
Okay. I'm probably the druzy queen. Druzy is a mineral or a stone that has quartz crystals sprinkled along the top of it, and it gives it a reflection. It's quite beautiful to me. I don't buy any of them that have been coated. I just detest that. So I have like a garnet druzy, which is called uvarovite. I have needle hematite, which has that same sparkle and look. But they're all natural. I don't buy anything that's not natural. It just doesn't appeal to me.
So I go to the American Gem Trade Association, AGTA, and the GJX. They're both to the trade. They make us do all kinds of paperwork to make sure that we are real jewelers. But there's lots of venues down in Tucson that the public can go to as well. I'm only there for a day because I'm supposed to be here working. I go with a little list of looking for stones for clients, and then I have a little bit of play money that I get to look for something new that excites me. That's something I haven't seen before, either a different cut or a different stone, because sometimes there are new stones that are unearthed. I like natural color stones as well. I also tend to purchase from the same people I have worked with for over 20 years. And if there's something specific I'm looking for a client, I will ask them, so who do you think, or who do you recommend has this stone? So, because I trust them. I also see some of these gem dealers that come to my, or vendors as they say, come to my studio during the year, which is really dangerous, because I can really spend a lot of time and money. But I get to also sit down and look at things, you know, in my own time and not be rushed. And I should never probably go to the gem show again. I have so many stones to play with and beads. And also what's been really great is amongst us, I haven't talked to Kelly much, but if we need something, we talk to each other and say, what do you have of this stone? Or we trade or purchase from each other. We have a good network. And that makes it kind of fun to see what's new. But we'll also text each other going, oh, did you see this? This is more Paul's stone, and this is a Suzanne stone. We kind of have gotten kind of different stones that we like. I'm a zircon person. She has her geodes and your druzes. Paul has his sphenes, which are interesting stones. So it's fun to just be inspired by what's out there and by different cuts that the stone vendors have. It'll be fun to see what we come up with next week. Because we always kind of do a little show and tell amongst ourselves, what did you get? And then we're excited, yes.
Yes, we can spend way too much money down there. So I typically go, every once in a while I'll decide, I'm going to go to a different show. Because there's 28 or 30 gem shows down there. But one year I decided, okay, I'm going to spend the day, I'm going to go to all different shows that I'd never been to before, and I'm looking back with 3 stones, which is like nothing. Because they just weren't the shows that I saw things that were interesting for me. And I typically go to the similar vendors that I've used before. I know what they have. I study gemology. I look really cool. Has more play of color than diamonds, and it's just an amazing stone. And you can pull it out of the light, and it'll pick up anything that's even anywhere around. It'll throw all kinds of different colors at you. It's really cool. And then I've collected some rare stones, like Trapezium Emerald is a very cool stone. They only get a few a year. Last year, one of my pieces was actually published in a book, Colombian Emerald, so I've been there with Cartier, Tiffany, Chopard, I don't know, the Spanish crown jewels. I mean, it's pretty cool. So, a rock star, there you go. So anyway, I look for just really cool things, but I try to stay with things that are natural, that aren't treated, and a lot of things are treated. You have, rubies have been treated since the 1920s. But I try to stick with more natural stones.
What does that mean if they've been treated or coated?
Okay, so they started heat treating rubies and sapphires. If they heat them up, it'll clean up the inside and get rid of what we call inclusions. It's just things that you can see in there. It can make the stone a lot more clear. It can also change the color. So sapphires and rubies are the same stone, but the difference is just the color. Well, they might be able to take a pale yellow sapphire, heat it, and it comes out an incredible blue, and they can sell it for a lot more money. So since that's been done since the 1920s, most of the things that are out there are like that. If you have something that's untreated, they're extremely expensive. So, but then coating stones, there's a titanium coating that they can put onto stones that have them sparkle, and they look great, and they have that dispersion or that play of color that's like speed. But speed is actually a titanium stone. It's titanium silicate, so it has it throughout the whole stone. It's not coated in any way. I just don't trust those things because they get scratched off and things like that. So.
Titanium must be solidly strong.
The mineral itself is. Speed is because it's a silicate. It's not really, it's something I only put, like I know which stones I can use in rings. Like I don't typically use tanzanite in a ring. I'll go with, it's a softer stone. So I'll do earrings, I'll do pendants. And the same thing with speed. It's a titanite, it's a softer stone. So I do pendants and earrings, but I don't do rings with it.
Okay, so signature style. I know one of the reasons you started your dance partners is because you love stones, and sometimes you can't find a matching pair, right? So this brilliant lady, and that's one of your signatures, and I think there's another one that you're wearing that you might want to talk about.
Yeah, so dance partners are my mismatched earrings. They're matched by length and color, so they have to have some cohesiveness to them. And then I get to use a lot of my different gemstones that I find, because I'm looking for cut and quality, and I might not find a pair. And then now I get to use them in stones for earrings to use all of the stones that I pick. The other signature series is my satellite series, which is like the ring I'm wearing, and it's also done as pendants. So once I do one in one color, then I do them in other colors as well. And let's see what else. Ribbon series. I have a new series that basically is like a satellite, but it's more in ribbon pieces. Susan has a ring. And it's when one series kind of continues to another.
And why do you call that one the satellite?
Oh, this one is because it has all the little stones around a major stone in the center. So that's kind of how that started.
Signature.
Oh, signature. Oh, you have a question?
I just wondered, do any of you guys actually cut your own stones, or when you go buying stones, gemstones, you're buying finished?
Yes.
So is stone cutting outside the realm of an artist jewelry person like yourself?
Okay, I think I'll answer that in a pretty easy way. I'm a goldsmith, and that's what I do, and I do, art jewelry, but I pick really nice stones, but when you're picking rough, you don't know what's going to turn out like. I mean, I have a guy who cuts stones for me once in a while, and he was over there cutting some stones one day. The guy was a stone dealer, had spent over $1 million in rough of these certain stones, and he was having to cut them shallower because it was too dark, you couldn't even see the color. And this is a guy who's been in the business for 40 years. So you just don't know what you're going to get. So that's why when I study gemology, I look for really well-cut stones, and I want that stone to really pop. And if it doesn't speak to me, I'm not interested. So, and I do design my pieces around the stone. So, signature really is more or less the granulation, but I'm using less and less of that. It depends on the things. I have a new line where I'm doing stacking rings that are very simple, and then I have another new line that I've done that's just less, not as big, so just kind of different things.
And that is a really good question. And cutting stones is a whole different, and many people who might be a stone cutter are not jewelers because they specialize in cutting stone. And I think you've made it clear that you have to be very careful from whom you purchase your stones, because you got to know what you're getting. Good question.
Signature.
Oh, well, obviously texture. I'm a texture girl. I love the texture. And the edge. I do a little edge, whether it's with the 14 karat yellow gold or whether it's in silver. If I do a piece in silver, I also use silver wire around the edge to make a little frame. It's just kind of gives it a frame, and that's a signature. And then I'm also the ring girl, and I have rings that do not connect all the way, like the one I'm wearing, which fall into that third P, the practicality. Ladies and gentlemen, we all tend to fluff and unfluff throughout the day, and maybe have knuckles that are bigger than the rest of the fingers. So from a practicality standpoint, they're adjustable, tastefully so, but they're adjustable and it's very functional.
I'm the Druzy girl, yes, but I do an earring that I call my pocketbooks, and they hang just like little pocketbooks from your ears. So, and they usually hang in a towards your face, and I like that because I tell my customers, and I'm very truthful about this, I think it brightens them. People look at your mouth, you're smiling, and they're happy. So those are my little pocketbooks. I do a series that I call my wave, and I've done it for about 3 or 4 years now, where I melt the edge, which is similar to what Shelley does, but I don't put gold on it. I just melt that edge over. It makes it very smooth, and my ladies like the bracelets that I make with it. So that's probably the 2 things that I really do.
So, do you have any other tools that I didn't have you show that you want to show? And while we're doing that, another thing I think of you, Paul, is your how your pendants hang.
Yeah, okay, this is a signature piece. And is this the one that's in the catalog this year? The program? I think it is.
Yes.
I'll pass it around. It
And
is
for
hooked up
today,
in the
we
back,
used
but
your
I'll pass
ring.
it around. And this actually hooks into the pendant and the clasp. So it's all right in the front. It's easy to wear because you're not back here trying to put on a clasp.
And all you have to buy is pendants.
Yes, exactly.
Or a series of pendants.
Yeah, one chain and multiple pendants, right?
Right.
And do you make the chains?
Okay, that chain, I used to make it, but it takes about a week to 10 days to make that chain. And so the price would be so high. I found someone in Germany that makes that one for me. And then I'll make the ends, the terminations where things go together. And I make the pendants.
So one of the sidebars of my job that I love is if I forget to wear jewelry, just go around and it's up. But yes, I've been fortunate to exhibit and model jewelry from each of them, but somehow that often ends in acquiring. But I'm sure some of you we might have some other questions. Right back there, Miss Connie.
I didn't really hear the term that you used, stein, when you were describing the stone.
Can you repeat the question?
Okay, I've got it. Okay, so it's Speen.
No, for the other people.
Okay.
The name of the stone.
Oh, repeat her question.
Restate.
But she wanted me to restate what that stone was. It's a titanium silicate. The mineral name is titanite, which no one ever goes by. It's called Sphene, S-P-H-E-N-E, spelled like sphere, but with an N. So S-P-H-E-N-E, which is a really strange name, but it's such a cool stone. I just love it. It's one of my favorites.
Do you have any Speen in your space right now?
I do. I have a big pendant.
Because it is breathtaking.
Yeah, I have one green that's a big pendant, and then I have 3 more stones, a pair that are going to be earrings, and then another one that's a big one that's going to be a pendant again. And then I have some smaller ones that I have put away right now. So, yeah, great.
Okay, when
First of all, I'd say you're looking at 4 very different people in terms of their jewelry, but it's all of it. But I do have a question. Probably, Paul, you can answer, maybe, but maybe others can as well. Could you just remind us about the different carats of gold? What are the advantages or disadvantages in the color that you get with the different gold carats? Because that is always sort of kind of a stumbling block in my head.
Okay, so carats of gold, basically it's the gold content, how much gold or copper or silver or other metals that you're putting into the carat. So if you take 24 karat, is 24 parts of gold in 24. So if you take 22, that's 22 parts of gold and 20 out of 24. So the other 2 parts have to be made up of something else. So you're going to put some silver and copper. If it's 18, that ends up being 75% gold. Okay. When you get down to 14, you're 58.5% gold. So it's really about the amount of gold, that the gold content. If you're 10, I mean, I don't even know how they're calling it gold. Okay. It kind of has a goldish look, but it's just an inexpensive alternative. The less gold it has in there, typically the harder it's going to be. In art jewelry, they typically will use 18 karat or above. If you're going into a regular commercial jewelry store, they're using 14 karat most of the time. But if you're going into a nice store, they're going to use 18 karat. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, how high do the carats go in? And, you know, what are the different levels used for different types of jewelry or different articles that you would use? Like,
Okay.
carats would you mostly use? And the color
Well,
changes as well.
The color, the more content of gold you have, the more gold it's going to be. So I use 22 karat for the bezel, and I use it for the granulation because I can fuse it together. If in 18 karat, it's a lot harder to fuse, and there is a way to do it. But in the granulation technique, you can do an 18 and 22. The durability is about the same. So for me, I have more opportunity when I'm fusing it to actually go back in a second or third or fourth time if I need. I have a couple that didn't fuse properly, I can go back in. If I do an 18 karat, you get 1 shot. So that's why I use the 22. I think it looks nicer as well. You can't do granulation in 14 karat. It just doesn't work because of all the impurities and the rest of the gold. It's the other materials in there.
What's the highest carat that would be able to be used, or is it too soft?
Okay, well, 24 karat is used if you go to India or Asia. They will use 24 karat because they use it also as their bank.
and that is the highest. 24
And that's
is the highest.
24 is the highest because that's 24 parts of 24. It's pure gold. It is soft, so you can make a ring out of it, but it has to be really thick. Typically, they'll make chains out of it. In Thailand, they call them bot chains. And they're really a form of currency because they can carry it around with them. They don't have to worry about a bank. They don't have to worry about anybody taking it from them unless they dropped them right there. But they'll hide it down in their shirt. They don't necessarily have it out and exposed. I see Casey going, yeah, me.
They're not going to wear their gold bars, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you one follow-up too. You said there is no such thing as white gold. So if somebody goes to a jewelry store and they say it's white gold, it means it's gold with zinc?
Okay. They're putting zinc. There's been lots of white gold really wasn't invented until they needed platinum for the war. So, like in the war, I don't know whether it was World War I or World War II, but they basically stopped platinum use and said, you can't, we're using it for munitions, so we have to have platinum, you can't put it in jewelry. Well, someone had already developed white gold, and gold's not white, so what they do is they add zinc, nickel, sometimes they used to add platinum in there, or palladium, different things, to make the gold white, because it's just not gold. But then, because they have all those other impurities in there, it will end up tending to tarnish, kind of a yellowish or greenish cast to it, brownish. So they rhodium plate it. So to me, I don't know, I'm a purist, so I like yellow gold because, you know, that's what gold really is.
Gold is gold, yes.
Gold is gold.
Like the gold medal.
You do any work in platinum?
I do.
Platinum?
Is that harder to work with and go higher to melt?
It's a lot higher platinum. So the question is, do I work in platinum? I do. So platinum is a lot higher temperature. You're talking about 3,400, 3,200 degrees melting temperature versus about 19 something for gold. So it's a lot different. It's a lot different for casting if you're doing casting. I have some pieces that are made that are forged, and it's actually a really good metal to work with. It's very durable. It lasts forever and ever and ever. And back in the day, they used to make like mixed metal settings. They would do a yellow gold, and then it looked like a white metal that was holding the bronze. Well, the good jewelers would use platinum because the bronze would last forever. And once you set it, it was there. And those prongs didn't break, but they also didn't bend as much. And they were really just a great setting. Instead of white gold, will be more brittle. And you have to retint them all the time. You have to check make sure you always get your jewelry cleaned at a jeweler. Have them check the setting to make sure that the stones aren't loose if they're in a prong setting, because you don't want to lose a stone.
Very good advice. Do we have other questions? Yes.
So the rhodium that they use to keep the white gold white also keeps a sterling silver from tarnishing. So I actually do that process on site here after I finish. I actually plate. I did that this morning. Plate, and it's an electromagnetic plating process. For the gentleman, it's kind of like chrome plating a bumper, only much smaller. Actually, a tiny jumper cable gets flipped on each piece, and then it gets basically zapped with a coat of the rhodium, which goes over the silver to keep it from tarnishing. So another use for rhodium.
Science is always involved in art, I swear. Science and math. So, well, I think, unless there's other questions, I love that we can expose the fact that each one of these jewelers, as well as the others in this show, create their own work and bring their own visions to life, and they can also work with you. And I would encourage you to go see each of their studio spaces to get a chance to maybe play a little bit. But so Shelley and Suzanne are on the south tent, which is this way, for those of you directionally challenged. And Paul is straight down the aisle from the office in the corner. I'm going to keep an eye on him. And Isabel is right where the curtains are open there. That's Paul Reimer, and Isabel is right next door there. And each of their exhibits is a work of art itself. So take some time to go see those, and thank you all for being here. And I believe that next week is floral inspiration, right? Yes? Yes, yes. So thank you. And drive careful.